Hi, friends. Welcome to Alive and Well-ish. Surprise, we're 6 months late on putting this video up, or putting this podcast out because we actually recorded it on April
April.
1st, right?
Yeah, so really it was kind of an April Fool's joke, maybe.
So
Not intentionally, but
we were in it for the long haul. It was like a really long game April Fool's joke. Just kidding. I wish that we were that like elaborate, like thought out, but no, life happened. So
yep. And it's pretty on brand for us because
yeah.
one thing you'll learn about Gabriella and I is we are very much progress over perfection.
Hmm.
So we figured instead of just starting from scratch, why not release this episode that we also accidentally recorded on April 1st? Like we actually didn't even get on to record our first episode. We really just hopped on to see if our microphones worked and,
Yeah.
and ended up talking for an hour. So that's what you're about to hear.
Everything is content. Yeah, I'm happy with it. And it's cool to like look back and see where we were even just 6 months ago, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then to just kind of like start from there. So I'm excited
Yep.
about it.
Yep. So without further ado, here is our very first episode of Alive and Wellish. We hope you enjoy it. And yeah,
Yes. What is it? Like subscribe, like, share, tag us in the comments. I don't know. Any of the things
where's
that you're supposed to do.
where's the script?
No, literally. Who does this? I need to talk to our writers. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoy it.
All right, bye. What are we doing?
Okay, so
Should we
I
maybe
feel like
even record like a little like snippet of like we are starting a podcast?
yeah, I mean if you want to, I don't care.
I really good.
I was kind of like practicing like while I was driving, I was like, "Hi guys, welcome to Alive and Well ish," you know. But then I was like, "You don't talk like that." So then they're gonna be like, "This bitch reeled me in with this like sweet, peppy, high voice, and she's actually a pessimist." So it's fine.
I really love though how neither one of us like this is gonna sound really bad and like mean, but I don't mean it that way. And I know you know me, so you know I know it mean it this way. But like neither one of us got ready at
No,
all.
no.
Like
I mean, you said like, "Oh, I'm behind," like whatever the timing, and I literally looked at the clock and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I just told Frankie we still have more time to like play outside, and so she's like screaming at me, dragging her bike in, and I'm just like, "I'm sorry, I forgot there's a time difference between."
oh no, I was not planning on it. Like I've been in this Cape Cod sweatshirt for 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought in my head I would, but let's be realistic. I feel like I didn't like we got to this part, and now I'm kind of like, now what? Because like I kind of didn't think we would get this far.
This is it.
Anyway, so I kind of feel like maybe we introduce ourselves, but maybe not so much. I mean, actually introduce ourselves and like whatever that means to you, whatever that means to me, because
Okay,
maybe
this is like my nightmare. The whole like go
no, I'm
around
like go
and
around class and
what is
introduce
one
yourself.
interesting fact about you? Oh my God, suddenly I have nothing in my entire
No,
life.
no, literally, I am a slug. Like, what do you mean? I've never lived a day in my life. And they're like, "Don't you have 5 kids?" And I'm like, yeah,
But there
yeah.
are also people have 5 kids.
No,
So
literally. What is that? Who is calling me? Stop.
don't they know
Okay.
we're recording a podcast?
Well, they know I'm literally never gonna answer. Like, you can text me. Um, anyway, so I'll go first.
Okay.
Although, like, obviously, like, my name's Gabriella, and like I said, I have 5 kids. My husband and I have been together for 5 years. He had 2 kids before we got together. I had 2 kids, and then we came together, and we had our little Frankie girl 3 years ago. So big blended family. And that's about it. I feel like you'll just like get to know, I feel like that's it. Like if I'm a mom, like maybe it gives an excuse as to why I look this way every time we podcast. I'm just like, don't expect more from me. I showed up and it took me 45 minutes to figure out how to get this set up. So
We are
anyway,
well-ish.
we're
Like,
alive and well ish. And that's like just the gist of it. So Larissa, your turn.
okay. I'm Larissa, and introducing myself is literally my least favorite thing to do in the entire world. But I am married as
Tell me your
well.
deepest secrets.
I will though. That's the thing. Like, why is it that like
You're like, all right, I'll
introducing
tell you.
like literally ask me anything and I will tell you how many times I like pooped today. Like
No, literally.
but
For
like
real.
ask me to tell you about myself. I'm sweating.
Yeah.
But I have 2 kids, 2 girls. I've been with my husband 11 and a half years. We've been married for 9.
It's crazy.
And my kid is 10, so do the math. Um yeah, that's pretty much it. We've lived in 3 different states. I'm from Arizona, live in Connecticut now. Um yeah, that's pretty much it. Gabrielle and I met. Okay, we met on Instagram. It's so funny because
As you do as a millennial mom, I feel
yeah,
like.
literally where you meet your best friends, your soulmates,
Mhm.
except maybe your husband. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if you've met your husband on Instagram, let us know.
I met my husband in Applebee's, so
Where did I meet
it's fine.
Jason? Tilly's. I worked at Tilly's in the mall.
Heard.
Um, so we met though, and it's so funny because I don't know when we actually followed each other on Instagram, but the only reason I can like kind of date it is because it was when I was going through like my most anxious time in life. Like I just remember we connected so much. I'm trying to do handstands to calm our anxiety. Do you or
Yes,
headstands?
I think about that all the time. First off, like I have had a literal neck injury, so like I couldn't even fathom doing that now because I'm like I would break it. God would be like, you've played with me too
Maybe
long.
that's what
Okay.
it was. Is it that's what did it?
I think about that all the time. I was literally pregnant doing them. So little
Yeah.
PSA, I'm not a doctor or scientist, but maybe just don't do that. So, but my first vivid memory of seeing you post something where I was like, oh, I really connect with this person is when you posted that cute little, I think in your backyard, maybe in Arizona, I'm not sure, back little like cardboard where you're like, we're moving from
Oh
here to
yeah.
here as a family. And like the girls were so little. And like that's all I really remember. I didn't know you at the time. I didn't know anything about Jason or what he was going through or anything like that. So, but that
Yeah.
was the first time where I was like, I like this girl. She like, let's just be honest, like she talks a lot, like I talk a lot. Like she's very open and honest in like the best way. Like those are my kind of people. I don't want to talk about like, hey, how was your day? Like chances are I'm gonna fuck that up and I'm gonna like say something really stupid. Like the
Yeah.
other day, the waiter seated us and he's like, all right, enjoy your lunch. And I said, you too. And I was like,
Oh
oh
my God.
shit, your shift. Enjoy the rest of your day. Don't look at me. He actually was our
Just walk
server. So
away.
it was,
Walk away.
yeah, it was so bad. But anyway, and so I just like people who get to like the nitty gritty of anything and everything. It doesn't matter. Like whether it's something that you agree on or not, or whatever it is, I just like people like that. So like I really was super drawn to you. And I feel like I have been for the last like what,
That
five
was
years?
2017, dude.
No,
Yeah.
no, it was 2018 because Sean and I got together in September and I signed up with that company the month after October. It was
But when we
2018.
connected though,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
moved I moved in
Yes.
2017.
Yep. Yeah,
Wait,
yeah, yeah.
what so eight
So,
math is hard. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23,
so
7 years.
yeah, I've known you, been connected with you since before I met Sean.
Yeah. No, that's
So
true. Oh my
anyway, that's
God. That's
crazy.
crazy. I'm your husband. It's
No,
fine.
you're like, that's so weird.
You love me more. It's fine.
No, yeah, exactly. Sean's listening to this. He's like, what the fuck? I tried to help you with your computer setup. I failed.
Oh my
It's
gosh. But
fine.
yeah, so that's how we met on Instagram and we've been soulmates ever since.
Yeah. So we
And
just decided that we want to just share more so I feel like we're just gonna be like chit chatting with each other. Like I feel like this is, you know what I mean? But like with other people in mind as well,
yeah.
maybe sharing our ideas, our thoughts, maybe things that we've tried and haven't worked or things we want to try, I would love to like eventually get to the point where we have like opinions and comments and stuff coming in and like ideas and stuff like that. Maybe we can just like connect with more like-minded people, moms especially. Like I always gear towards moms because it's just like it can be such a lonely time in your life, especially when your kids are so young. But I'm also realizing, and maybe you are too, because yours are, it's like they're getting older every
Mhm.
day. And so our oldest is 12. And I'm just like, I've never been a parent to a 12-year-old before. I'm still literally a teen mom. Like, what do you mean? How do I have five kids? I don't get it.
I am 12
So
myself.
I'm 12 too. This is so weird. So
The
how
math
you
isn't
go?
mathing.
No, exactly. And like it doesn't matter. Like he's my oldest biological kid he's 9, but still that's still so old. So like I haven't really been a full parent, for 12 years. Our oldest was 6 when I met him. But it's so weird to me. It's crazy. So yeah, that's
It
that's kind of
is.
my goal with the podcast. What about you? Because we kind of just decided like what, 2 weeks ago we were gonna do this.
Yeah,
But I
it's
feel like we've
very
always thought that
Oh yeah.
we
I
so
actually it's so funny because the thought and the idea left my head. It was actually probably 2018 that I first had the thought. Like I very vaguely remember posting on my Instagram stories, like, if I were to start a YouTube channel or a podcast, like, what do you think? And like everyone said podcast. And then I don't know, I guess I just never thought about it ever again for
no,
7
that's the
years.
definition. Like that's prime example of being an asshole when you're like, what would you rather? And I tell you, and you're like, no,
Like,
psych, I'm not doing any of that. That's literally how I am
yeah, I think
with
life
so
just
much.
got so crazy though, because like we moved, like at that point we were living in Delaware. My husband was in the military, right? So we were living in Delaware at that point, and then we moved to Connecticut, and it just got so crazy. And then, like you said, I entered this whole new era of motherhood, which my kids now are 10 and 7.
Yeah.
And Gabrielle, yours age from 12 to
3 to
3?
12. Mhm.
Yeah, 12 to 3. So you're more in the toddler stage and stuff than I have been, because like I'm entering this new area of like
Yeah.
older kids. But that's the thing, is like toddlerhood, babyhood and toddlerhood is like my comfort level, where I felt
It
like
it
I
does. Now
knew
that I've
it.
had older ones, like, now that I have a toddler, it's so
Yeah.
much like, I hate to say it to, like, some mom that's gonna hear this and be like, "It's so hard." It
It's
really
so
is.
hard.
It's so hard. But I will say, like, segue into when you have older ones, you realize how, like, minuscule these things are, because it's like them having, like, low grade fevers and teething and poopy diapers and, like, stuff like this that
Yeah.
you can kiss a boo-boo and it's literally better. Like, you're literally end all be all, the most amazing thing. Like you hang the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky for this little toddler. Whereas the older
Mhm.
kids, especially my 9-year old, you know what I mean? He's like, but why? But that doesn't make sense, mom, because you're telling me that I don't need to do this, but I just watched you do that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're right. So let's reconvene at a later date because I don't actually have an answer for this. Like,
Yeah, I've always said, I've actually said it so much lately too, and again, we just really want to reiterate, and this is one thing, like, this is one reason why too we want to start the podcast, first of all, about our personalities. We're going to jump around topic all over the place. And so that
all
if
over.
that's not your vibe, I'm sorry, but we're a little ADHD.
I was gonna say a
Um,
lot, actually a lot.
a
Like we
lot of
both
it.
have ADHD. So that's the
Where
thing.
was I going with that? Okay, so one thing we do want to make sure is like we don't discount the level of hard motherhood in general is in any season. Like you will never, like, like, so even if we say like, oh, this felt so much easier, it's really only because we've done it before. In that
Right.
season, it was not easy,
Right,
you
good
know?
because hindsight is not only 2020, but hindsight is, what I mean? Like, it's you just can see everything so much more
Oh yeah.
clearly, and you're like, "Why did I cry and scream and throw up because, this happened with my
Yeah.
toddler?" It just
Also
yeah.
hormones. That's like,
Also,
cause
like, there's so true, and it's also there's this thing where it's like, I don't necessarily like I think you said it maybe, I don't really like the terminology, but, like, new levels, new devils,
mm,
and it's so true because it is, it's like you level up and you're like, "Oh, I just kicked ass in that, like, little, season of parenting," and then, they're, like, 4 and 5, and you're like, "Oh, fuck, I was
yeah,
not ready for this at all," you
yeah.
know? So it's all
So
hard.
the thing I've been saying a lot lately, shout out to me, patting myself on the back for remembering my thought, is
Yes.
that the early years of parenthood are so physically exhausting. Like you are not sleeping. You are literally chasing a human once they start moving. You're pulling them up
Barely
and
eating.
down, barely eating. You're pulling them up, down, and around off of things. Like maybe you're a new mom. Like Gabrielle and I were both very young moms. Like so we were like hustling and working full. I don't know if you were working full time when they were little, but I was.
Not until
And
they're,
like
like, 2 and 3, but
but
yeah.
still, like, still even through that, like, toddlerhood, it's so physically draining, and
Yeah.
as they get older and they're a little bit more independent, it's just as exhausting, but for me, at least, I'm finding it more mentally exhausting and because just like you said, like, "Oh, you're like, I'm supposed to teach you how to, like, be a human being with, like, thoughts and feelings and emotions and how to treat human beings and things," and, like, not just, like, sharing a toy on the playground, but, like, really
And not only
conflicting
that, that's like
interpersonal situations.
exactly, and then it, like, really does, like, I was just talking to, a friend about this recently where it's like, not only do you have to help them through that, obviously, if it's something that triggers something within you, you're having to help yourself with it. So
Yeah.
sometimes there are like, and I will be so frank, like throughout the podcast, I will probably say something like, my 9-year-old and I got into it. And I use that verbiage intentionally because it's like we do get into these like confrontations because like in my household our kids are allowed to bring anything up to us that bothers them at any point in time. I encourage them to because I want this, I don't want them to wait until they're out in like the real world. I do tell them that this is the real world. Our household and the way that we interact with each other, this is going to be just kind of like a practice. What you practice is what is permanent in the
Yeah.
real world or in the bigger world. And so like we get into it so much. Like my 9-year-old and I, we butt heads. He also has ADHD and he's so brilliant, so just amazing and like aware of everything around him, and he also just has like a brain of like he doesn't forget. And
Mhm.
so I love that about him. I think it's amazing, but it's like we're just the same people in two different bodies, two different ages and different experiences. So it's like, yeah, he trips me up on a lot of things where I will literally be like, "No, you cannot do that." And then like 3 seconds later I'll be like, "Well, okay, here's why I said no, but also like you can do that, but here is what might happen and here is what might, whatever." And like you might fail or you might mess it up or you might whatever, and like I get worried about that for you and how you're going to handle that, but I have to let you handle that. I have to let you go through that so that you can understand how to handle that, with
Yeah.
so many things with parenting all of
Yeah.
my kids.
And so into that segue, because this started with you asking me what my hope for the podcast is. And like, oh, and then we just went into a whole topic, but
Gotcha.
essentially, gotcha. Um, People have been asking me the last couple of days because I just can't shut up about how excited I am for this.
Yeah.
They're
Same.
like, but they're like, so I tell them the name, which is Alive and Wellish, obviously. And they're like, well, what's it about? And I'm like, well, everything,
And
but,
nothing.
and nothing. And like, it's like, we do our brains, the way our brains work. And this is honestly kind of why we wanted to do this because I love having conversations with you so much. And that I feel like it helps me, like in the way we can talk things out because we're so non judgmental, but also
Hmm.
because we've gone through a lot of shit. You know,
Absolutely.
the version of me, myself now, like 2018 Larissa asking about starting a podcast, girl, I don't even know what the frick I would have talked about because
Right.
I,
Would
nope.
have just cried. You would have just
And
cried on the
honestly, I think
podcast.
I think 2018 Larissa didn't even cry that much. Like I cry a
Heard.
lot now, but like it's a good thing, you know,
Right, right.
it's a
Not there's anything
healthy
wrong with
thing.
crying. We cry a lot around
But
here.
yeah, like I think for me it's just kind of bringing those conversations. Like we kind of want to be like your best friends with you
Hmm.
that maybe talk about things that you don't feel comfortable talking to people about, like your friends and stuff, or maybe you haven't found a safe space. Like we're here to have those conversations with you about anything. Like we're going to talk about parenting and, you know, ADHD, parenting ADHD kids, neurodivergency in general, emotions, just wellness in general, right? Like, and try to make it fun. Like that's what I love about our conversations is we will literally be talking to each other
Hmm.
like, we will be talking about very heavy topics.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
No,
It's
no, it's like I feel like sometimes I'm like, it's like violin playing, and then I'm like, like out of nowhere, I'm just like, just kidding.
let
Like
him not.
you see those memes of people like crying in the mirror, but like trying to. That's literally me. I just try to be at this time. Like I just turned 30 a few months ago,
Mhm.
and I just feel like I want to be like serious about the things that matter, obviously, but like so many things, like I could just be unserious. Like, don't take life so seriously, in
Yeah.
some ways. And that's something that I've always struggled with. So I like to add to your point. I feel like a big thing for me with this podcast is like, besides just getting to chit chat and like selfishly, this is like really fun for me because it's time where I'm like blocked off and I'm like, can't be a mom, can't be a partner, can't. Oh, you need me to sweep the kitchen? I can't. I'm sorry. I'm so busy. So I'm doing this for like me, but also for other people and maybe just to help people feel like less alone because like that's one
Yeah.
of the biggest things of motherhood besides the fact that it is so hard no matter what. When you have a village it feels a little bit less hard, but just like so many of us don't, especially in America. Like it's just we all live so far apart from each other, especially with social media. I love social media because so many of the people that I am in close contact with daily are from, people I've met through social media, but it's also like the other, side of the coin is just that like it's really creates like this loneliness within you and
Mhm.
comparison and like all these other things, especially as a new mom. Um, so yeah, like if we could just like help someone else not feel so alone, because I
Yeah.
know when I was going through my stuff or when you were going through your stuff, like having each other or even other people that we met through Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, like that helped us so much in different
Yeah.
ways, maybe, but still the same, like
Okay,
yeah.
why is my nose burning already?
I mean, I had to stop myself for a second. I was like,
Who's gonna break the seal of the podcast of who cries first? Man, we should have put bets
we
on that.
we can't start that because yeah, no, it'll be like a
But
drunk girl having to
no,
pee.
but that's so powerful. Oh my God. And 17 people just left the podcast because these girls cry. Like,
Why are these bitches crying? And first
um,
off, why are they making themselves cry? They're doing it to themselves.
I joked one time, Gabrielle and I sent joke tattoo ideas, and it was literally just a nose with fire in the nostrils. Do you remember that? We would never actually get that tattoo, but it's because a
I mean, I
very,
might. I've got
I
some
mean,
bumps.
I might. Let's put it on a shirt.
No,
Alive and
literally.
Wellish with a burning nose.
No,
Because, like,
literally.
when you, like, it's like, oh, that made my nose burn. Like, you don't even realize you're feeling emotions. And then all of a sudden your nose is burning and you're like, oh, okay. But,
No,
like,
that's yeah.
you saying that though, like that's what we want to come out of this is someone being able to listen. And you know what? There's probably gonna be topics that one day you're like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. And then other days you're like, I don't relate to this at all. And that's great because that's the human experience, right? It's like
Right.
we all have different experiences and you can relate to someone so hard on one thing and nothing on the
Yeah.
other. But like I think about podcasts I would listen to like when I was struggling really bad in my marriage and just hearing something that I felt so connected with and hurt. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was like, "Oh, like
Right.
we're not the only ones with these struggles. Like we're not, and
Yep.
so by the way, our marriage is great now. Like, so obviously, we went through things.
Like, don't
Um
come for my man.
do,
Okay.
do not. He's my best friend.
It's my
And this
only
is like
friend.
but just if somebody on the other side, so if you listening to this in any topic we talk about could just be like, oh my God, like, yes, like we want you to feel like the third person on this podcast.
Right. Absolutely. Or even like, because something that I try to keep, present in our family and with our like dynamic is just that, like, even if you don't agree with it, like, just know that that's okay too, because you're never going to meet me if you meet me in person or whatever it is online. I'm never going to be like, I don't agree. That's weird. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I might be like, oh, yeah, no, I don't see it that way because I don't. Actually, my best friend of like 10 or 11 years now and we see so many things differently. Like, parenting, like even just day to day life and interactions, like we handle things so much differently. But I have like no less love for her because of that. Like,
Yeah.
I have very few friends, but like my love for all the people who I love is so unconditional, like as long as you're not doing something that directly hurts me or my children or my husband, then like I'm just a very open and accepted, like open-minded person to where like when someone does something, even if I don't agree with it, I'm like, I can kind of see why, they maybe
Yeah.
feel that way or they maybe think that. And that's kind of the thing as an empath over the last couple years where I've learned to ground myself better because I used to be like,
That was my question, is if you've always been this way.
yeah, no, it used to be like to my detriment where I would be like, oh, it's okay because this and that. I've learned and I've grown so much over the last few years, like as is it the trauma?
Is
Like,
it the trauma? Is that trauma?
it just need like a little button that says, like, just a button press it. It's like, is it the trauma? But I feel like that
Or like
it's
a little
just
word, that's trauma.
no, literally. So for me, I have realized like over the last couple of years that I have to stay grounded to that. And like it's okay. I have cut off quite a few people. Like I have whole side of my family I do not talk to. Are you okay? Please don't die.
I'm so
Our
sorry.
first
I'm so sorry. There was a hair in my mouth and
our
it was
first
like,
episode, we go viral because you pass out on
oh my
camera.
God. But there was a hair in my mouth and I'm so sorry.
You're like turn into a cat. It's
A bird.
fine. Oh my God. Okay. So I've just learned though that like it is okay to cut people off, like doing it with compassion for them and for myself, where it's like, this is no longer serving either one of us really. I'm not able to help you in any capacity. And you're definitely not helping me by me just like taking on all of your stuff. That's been like a huge thing in my own healing journey. And it's just made me really so much more be able to focus on the things that like are so good for me or good for my kids or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy as an empath to be like, you want to help everybody all the time even if it screws you over. And like,
Oh yeah.
I don't want to do that. There was like this really powerful quote I read one time. It's probably a TikTok. I don't know. Honestly, so powerful. I can't even actually remember the quote, but it was something about like it was something about like, don't betray yourself. In
Mm.
order to make other people happy, basically like that's just something that goes off in my mind
That
all the
sounds like a
time.
Brene Brown
It
quote.
was probably Brene Brown. Like we love her around here. Brene
Okay,
Brown.
we're gonna Google that right now though, because
This
I
is
think
a
it's from Braving the Wilderness, which changed
probably
my
betraying yourself.
life.
This is a Brene Brown stan podcast,
We
honestly,
are.
because
We're actually just, yeah, that's what
we're
this is.
we're just here to actually regurgitate her quotes. So
No, I seriously though, Braving the Wilderness, I think I read it about a year ago,
I'm gonna do
and
it.
it belonging is belonging to yourself first, speaking your truth, telling your story, and never betraying yourself for other people.
I like that. I like
Brene Brown.
that's the thing, and like that just hits. I am somebody that like, although I tried to be so unserious about some things, and like I love to giggle, chuckle all the time. I'm in for some laughs, but like I also take things so deeply, and so when I hear a quote like that, or I see it, or see a clip of Brene Brown, I'm just like instantly like nose burning tears because I'm just like it's so powerful for me, and I really want to keep like reinstilling that within myself and also within my kids, and I want them to see that. I want them to see me say no and mean it and
Yeah.
not regret it, not stew on it. Because that's something I saw a lot growing up as a child where I would see somebody, who I love, whether it was like a parent or, teacher or anything like that, where it's like, no, but then you sit there and you can see them like ruminating on it and like obsessing over it or like being upset that they couldn't or feeling bad. And for me, it's like, I'm not saying no to be mean, to be rude, to be hateful. I'm saying no because it does not serve me. And if I say yes, not only am I betraying myself, I'm not going to show up with a good attitude. I'm not going to show up
Yeah.
with compassion and love and care for whatever this is for you or for whatever the project is. So I'm just going to say no, and I think it's okay sometimes to protect yourself. in that way, even
Yeah,
if it
but
feels kind of weird.
that's something that really only comes from one growth, but also like so many trial and error situations, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like there are definitely situations I've had where I've grown, right? Like I'm my grown version of myself who's gone through
Right.
all the personal growth, but still don't handle things right. But, you know, because like we are human beings,
Right.
or we say yes when we shouldn't, or, you know, we
Absolutely.
sign ourselves up for things that we shouldn't, or maybe we react to a situation that is not our highest self.
Right.
But then like being able to reflect on those situations after the fact and maybe even open up and communicate to people who were involved
Yeah.
in that situation, that is still growth. You
Hmm.
know, I think like it can be so easy to feel like we have to be perfect to,
Right.
you know what I mean? Switching topics just a tiny bit because you made me think about this when we were talking about how you said like reading a quote. Reading a quote hits so hard. I feel this so deeply, and I'm actually really wondering if it's because is it a millennial thing? Because like we grew up.
You should quotes and stuff.
Yes, like
Yeah.
literally MySpace and Facebook, like
Yeah,
that's all we would
probably.
post is quotes, and like we are like the Pinterest era.
No, where it's like she believed he lied.
Sorry if that was really loud in my microphone. Watch, this
Bro,
entire podcast has made me yelling because I have noise
no.
canceling headphones on.
Well, I mean, also here's the thing. I'm so glad you said that because I was watching a podcast earlier that I love with Drew off Wallow and Whitney Cummings, and like they have the most obnoxious funny laughs, and I love loud annoying crunchy laughs. Like I love them. I'm not kidding. I have one of the most annoying that
Crunchy.
I've ever heard. That's what I don't know where we came that even started with, but Sean says that like he's like, "Oh my god, that's so crunchy." And it's funny because like that's actually what I said. I met my husband at Applebee's, and like classic tale as old as time, write a romance novel about us. He was a cook and I was a server,
Oh my God.
bartender. And so, like I literally would be like laughing so loud and he would mock my laugh from like the back, And so
That's
like
such a back
he
of
would do
house
it
type of thing.
back of
That's
house,
so
front of house.
back
It
of
was a whole
house.
thing. No, literally he would do it and then like his little friends on the line would start doing it. And so every time I would laugh, even if they would hear it from like the front of front of the house, like out in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And like I'd walk back there and it'd be like everybody down the line. And I'm just like, you fuckers. But yeah, so
Your
anyway.
book, if it's gonna be a spicy novel, could be called Back of House because
Oh,
that sounds really dirty.
double entendre. Okay. Back of house. Oh God. That's good. That's good. So if you use
Oh.
that, please, we need our royalties. Okay. If you do
You heard
that
it
and write
here
a book.
first.
No, literally. Okay, so I was thinking, obviously, we have no problem. Like, there's no shortage of like conversation when we talk. But like, because you know how we have our little pod topics, like hot topics, note that we're sharing on this app because we are millennials. Um, are we young millennials or are we old? Or are we like in the middle?
I think we're definitely not young,
My
but we're
brother is 7 years
not
younger than me, and he's a Gen Z.
okay.
So like we have to be at the
I feel
lower
like we're
the
middle. I feel like we're like mid
think so? I
millennials.
I feel like we have smart devices we could just ask the
Because I
internet. I
think it
don't
started in like 80s. Because my friends that are 40 are also millennials. So maybe that makes us we're young millennials? I don't know. I will say I relate very hard to the elder millennial reels and content.
no, yeah, that's what I was gonna say geriatric, but elder elder
Yeah.
it makes me think of like elder abuse.
But it's
No,
also
well, okay, the 80 so it starts from 81 and who knows, this is Google. I don't 81 and it goes to 1996. And so like
okay, so we're
does that mean
younger.
we're younger?
We
Okay.
are. Yeah.
In my head, I'm
Okay.
like, does that mean we're the oldest? But
But
I obviously don't know how time works.
here's what's so crazy and like this can be and probably will be a podcast episode in itself because I could talk about it all freaking day. But it because you and I had kids so young, like I was 20 when we had Avery.
Mhm.
And how old were you when you had
I was
Cash?
21.
21. Yeah. So, and we're the same age. We're both 30.
Mhm.
So, because of that, most of my friends in my like the parents of my kids' friends are 40 and
Right.
they're still millennials,
Right.
you know, but like, so I
Barely.
relate more to,
Okay, get on. No, just kidding. I love my 40-year
um,
olds. Mhm.
but like all my friends are 40 besides you.
No. Yes.
But like that's what's so hard is because it's like, that's probably why I relate to the elder millennial content more because like my
It does make sense.
lifestyle and my life, you know? when
I'm
I
sure
was
you were like
this
that growing up though too, even before kids. I'm assuming
100%.
all of my friends were like way older doing shit that I was way too scared to do. I'm also interested to talk about that because I don't know about you, but I was always a goody two shoes. I have always I did not drink a drink of alcohol until I
Uh,
graduated high school.
oh,
Like I
oh, no, no,
okay,
that was not me.
very different. Polar opposites. So like it's funny because my husband and I, we are very different in the way that we've like experienced life, which has like its pros and cons. We have different views about different things, but
Same.
yeah, like I very much I'm like drugs. What are drugs? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like that looks like oregano. So it's yeah. Sometimes it's lame. I got show up to places like with these tattoos and like tattoos all over, and anytime people try to talk to me, when I was younger, especially like guys, I would be like, I look so much cooler than I really am. Please understand that. Like I'm not cool. I
Do
have no
not
cool
judge this
stories.
book by its cover.
Literally, close your eyes and just listen to me talk. You're gonna know. I'm a little annoying, a little obnoxious, and my laugh is really loud. So like just yeah, back it up. Anyway, I didn't
Yeah.
know if you wanted to go through and maybe pick like a couple topics, or maybe we just pick one and talk about it. Like I literally have my pot topics up. Or if you just want to keep chit-chatting, because I know we
Yeah.
haven't found our groove yet. I don't even know if we're gonna post this or
No,
what.
I know. I mean, honestly, I think it's gonna come down to how this audio sounds.
True.
Like,
Yeah, it's exactly like how editing goes.
like my brother was telling me who my brother is super good. Gabriella knows this with all the tech things. Like he
Yeah.
is like so smart with that stuff. And he was like telling me about like the distance of the microphone. And I was like, oh, well, I totally thought it was supposed to be like right here. He's
You're
like,
like ASMR.
"Mm."
Right now.
Hello.
That sounds pretty good though.
Sure, I'm
I'm just
telling you.
fall asleep to it. It's so good.
But like he was like, I don't know if you guys are loud. And I was like, well, we're kind of loud.
Okay, you know
But
what? One thing I want to talk about because it's new to me, and I know this is something that people with experience with kids and stuff as parenting. It's literally the last topic. But like kids sports and like extracurriculars for
mm,
like for content for context.
context.
That's the word. I remember seeing like a clip of Brene Brown, our Lord and Savior, talking about how her
We're gonna get
kids.
so much shit for that.
Oh, really? Oh, that's a whole nother topic we can talk about. I don't care. Anyway, she is though. I have a shrine of her. I pan to a shrine. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I just really like her. Also, I'm just a silly little goose sometimes. So anyway, I remember seeing a video of her talking about how like her family is very much like a unit, and that's kind of how I try to be with our family. Whereas it's like they bring it to the table, like they will table things and have discussions with each other where it's like I want to play this sport and I want to do this band and I want to do this, but here are the dates of it and here's the
Hmm.
cost of it and here's whatever. And like for me that's super important because uh, it's me and my husband and it's 5 kids. And so like even if we let all 5 kids have one thing
Yeah,
each, that's a lot.
it's a
And
lot.
we do. So like for us, I just didn't know like I just for y'all, I didn't know how it was. But for us, we're kind of into that season of like I have 2 that just started sports for the first time, but it's kind of easy because they're in the same sport, same they're only a year apart. So same practice times, same game times. And then my other 2 who live with their mom half the week, she signs them up for things and like we have to go along with that as well. So how does it work for you guys? Do you guys just say yes to everything? Is it like, is there
We
no?
we
Okay.
definitely do not say yes to
Well, because
everything.
sometimes like I watch your stories and I'm like, oh, they're in theater and Bally
Okay,
baseball and I'm
so
like,
I will tell you a story though, because and yes, I only have 2. So keep that in mind, right? Like you literally have 2 times plus the amount of children I have. Or I guess 2 times when it comes to
because
kids.
Frank's
It's
not
like
in anything yet.
yeah, right, like in terms of ages of like
We did try
extracurricular
gymnastics
activities.
actually, but she screamed the whole time and ran around and jumped on the balance beams, so we left. But
As
anyway,
a 3-year-old does in gymnastics.
she was 2, so
Yeah. Oh, see, even more. So our kids, we do think it's important. And again, wow, this could be like a whole thing that they are doing sports. We never make them do anything
mhm,
and we always like take their desires into consideration, right?
mhm,
But my kids like multiple things. Like they have played softball and we started them when they were pretty young, like when they could start playing. Granted, it was like
mhm,
COVID times and stuff, so it was weird. But so they started softball and then like that was in the spring. And then soccer they do the fall or in fall they do the soccer. And then in the winter we they didn't want to play basketball. So we like started going into theater and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we really do try to just stick to like one thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be the same thing. I would prefer if it is. But luckily,
Right.
they both kind of like the same things
Right.
because they have an age difference where they're on different teams,
Mm-hmm.
which is makes it so fun for us because that means the schedules are so opposite.
Right.
Um, but like for example, the kids were in theater. We usually do theater through the winter, and they had their theater performance on I don't know, like last week or whatever. And in the spring, we do softball. And I already know from last year that the softball schedule is crazy. Like they're in two
Yeah.
different league levels. They're there for like it's like 6 days a week for us because every other day is opposite kid. Like it's
God.
ridiculous. I mean, I love it, and we're gonna do
Right.
it. But so the next theater class opened up for the next session, and it was Lion King Jr. And the kids really, really, really wanted to do it. But I know how much of a commitment theater is because we just did it, and it's so much money to pay for both. And I know for without a fact, theater's 3 times a week. So they'd be missing some things here or there. So I
Mm-hmm.
gave the girls the option to choose. And we just have to have those kind of conversations of like, okay, like if you want, you can do theater instead of softball, but you need to know you can do theater any time of the year, and softball is only a spring sport,
Right.
right? I did back down though because I did find a theater class for them that they could both be in, which is the first time that's been able to happen.
That's
It's
nice.
only one day a week, and there's only one performance in May.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whereas like this last performance they did, there was 4 shows, and it was
God
absolute.
bless.
It was chaos. It was a lot,
Child
and
labor laws. Jesus.
I know. So anyway, so that's where I kind of settled because I'm like, okay, like what is it taking out of them and what is it taking out of us in terms
Right.
of like energy and stuff. But a question I have for you too, though, is, and I'm genuinely curious. So we haven't talked about this, but Gabriella homeschools.
Mm-hmm.
Her younger, or I guess they're not the youngest three, but your biological
My
kids,
three biological,
yeah,
yeah. Well, two.
homes,
My 3-year-old, she just runs around
right?
screaming.
But she will homeschool.
Eventually.
Yeah. So with that, and I plan on homeschooling after next year. Are there classes and things and extracurriculars for homeschool kids that are like during the day versus
It's funny
like,
you say that because today was the day that they went to their co-op. They go to and there's also more that they could do, but right now we're starting lightly. They just started
yeah,
this year because they are 8 and 9 years old. And I just have not been comfortable with dropping them off and leaving them at a place. Again, just remember, no judgment on anyone that does. It's
no,
very normal, very
yeah,
mainstream to take your kids to a public school and leave them. That's what I went to public school my whole life, loved it, excelled at it academically, sport, like everything. But my oldest biological kid had a really severe egg allergy when he was little, like 9 months old. He went into anaphylactic shock, and I just was like so traumatized as a parent. I was like, I will never let him. I already wanted to homeschool before that, but like that just really solidified it for me, where I was just like, I will not let him out of my sight until he can like read for himself to read
mhm,
ingredients because that was a big
right.
thing at that time in our life. He has since grown out of it, which is amazing. He's no longer allergic to egg, milk, peanuts. He was allergic to so much. I don't know how he grew out of it, but we did the testing. It's awesome. So anyway, so homeschooling, they have so many options. We live in a very rural area. I hate that word, but like a very
I
like
could
small
never
town
say
area. Rural.
rural.
Why did I choose the first podcast we ever do to say that word? Anyway, that's embarrassing. And so like we found this co-op and it's once a week, Monday, from 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and they go and they do all elective classes because like we do our core work at home. We do math and reading is what we focus on at this age. And you can kind of do whatever with homeschooling, which is awesome. But there they do like they have like a chess club, they have a Lego class, they
Yeah, like a
have
STEM thing.
yeah, they have STEM.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all STEM based. Everything is, and they have reading where they do like a story, and then they'll do a craft with it, and it's just like 4 or 5 or 6, I think, different small classes in that time period. And so they really, really enjoy that. They've only gone like 4 days now. I think we started it last month, or
I think it can be so easy to feel like you said, like you see people have their kids signed up for all these activities and all these different things. And like, but I think that's a beauty of what you do as a homeschooling parent, right? Is like you get to like color outside the lines and kind of like redefine what that means for your family. And like,
absolutely
you're not doing less. You
no,
know what I mean? Like
no,
that's
for
the
sure.
thing. And that's actually what I'm super excited about when we start homeschooling is um, you know, having the extracurriculars not be at freaking dinner time or like take until like right now my kids are at theater and it's an hour past their bedtime and they're about to get home. You know what I mean? Like so you
Yeah,
can actually make it fit more into your family. And I've heard there's even like homeschool sports leagues and stuff when they get into
Yeah.
like middle and high school level.
Yeah, so my kids are actually both in my 2 homeschooled, uh, kids are in a league, and it's not specifically for homeschooled kids, but it is, in a town that's like I say town because I think there's, like, literally less than 100 people there.
Oh, wow.
I'm not even kidding, it's so tiny, but, it's 10 minutes away from our house, and it is not, related to the school in that town.
Hmm.
So, like, anybody can join, and, like, that's, like, our jam, we have a recplex, but it's, like, further into town. It's just, like, it's I say that, and I feel like so many people I watch other podcasts, and, like, people talk about, like, running down to here, running down to wherever, and I'm like, "We live 15 minutes away from, like, things, like a Dollar General, like, how country and south is it? Like, it's literally there's a Dollar General,
You
and
did say y'all earlier, and I was like, man, that Missouri's coming out.
I forget, and, like, it's funny because Missouri to me is not even very Southern, but I did live a
Me
bulk of my
either.
life in Texas, so,
That's
like,
true.
growing up, like, throughout
Yeah.
my childhood, like, schooling and stuff like that, until I hit, like, 13, like, I was in Texas, so definitely say I don't feel like I have an accent until I hear someone else say something else, and I'm like, "That's not how you say that." It's y'all, so,
It's
anyway,
y'all.
it's actually y'all, so just shorten it, just, like, why are you wasting our time? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. People say, like, "use guys" and stuff like that from, like, I don't know, like, is it, like, New York area? Is that what it is, like, Boston and stuff?
Or like when people add an S onto Aldi and call it, do you do
Aldi's,
that? Do you do that?
I don't think so, at least not, like, when I type it, like, I don't go around saying Aldi. No, I say Aldi because 'cause I'll be like,
Okay.
"Hey, I'm gonna go get the pickup order from Aldi." But yeah, no, I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised if I did that, like, it would be very on brand because
Yeah.
I definitely say some things sometimes where I'm like, even growing up, I used to say the word crooked instead of crooked, and I don't know why. I don't know why. My mom one time corrected me, and I was like, "My whole life is a lie." Like,
Yeah.
how many
Right.
people have looked at me and been like, "Are you dumb?" Or, "Are you okay?" "Hey, hillbilly," and I'm like, "You know what? It is what it
I
is."
think, okay, so one thing I think it might take some people who don't know us
Mhm.
to this is me manifesting that people who don't know us will listen to our podcast.
Absolutely.
Um, to learn our sense of humor of like we will probably say things that sound very judgmental, but we are literally not judging at all. So like even when
No.
you know what I mean? Like
No. Not
it's
even a
just
little
our
bit.
sense of humor, but we literally love people and like want people to be who they are so much, like
Oh,
so much.
yes, because earlier we were talking about, like, not wanting to be people to be alone, and it's funny because, like, I
Yeah.
obviously met you on social media, through, like, a n network marketing type job, and it's funny because it's like I started sharing, like, and I joined, the company with you, and it's like it feels very weird because, like, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I know so many people think that I just, like, like, I had someone yesterday say something like, "I still see you as, like, an influencer type," and I'm
Mhm.
just like, "That's not how it feels, though," because, like, to me, I have the thought in my brain when I go through something and I'm like, "Oh, this is hard." I just am, like, such a teacher at heart, and it just comes from, like and, like, a
Yeah.
sharer, and it comes from me not wanting others or maybe if I can, like, soften the blow of, like, the feeling of, like, alone or, like, "Man, this is hard," or, like, "Oh, this sucks," or, like, "Why did I
Yeah.
do this?" And, like, if I can just, like, lessen that discomfort for someone, you know, I will do that anytime I can, and my first thought when something happens like that in my life is, like, if I am going through this or if I just went through this, chances are that there is at least 1 or 2 other people in this world of 8 billion other people.
Mhm.
I think sometimes that's what can, like, just kinda pull us into that, like, deep, dark depression and, like, disconnection from the world and from reality and from humans around us where it's like we really get into this mindset and this spiral of, like, no one else knows what I'm going through. No one else could ever understand, like, how and it's like chances are there's a bunch of other people that actually know exactly what you're going through, and even if they
Yeah.
don't know every single detail and they didn't go through it the way you did, there's still that human emotion aspect to it where, like, they have felt the same anxiety, and they have
Yeah.
felt sadness, and they have felt, like, fear of this or that, and so, like, that's my thing with sharing is, like, I am an oversharer, and I claim that, like, I'm totally fine with it because, like,
Same.
I know people who have been oversharers, like you, have helped me. So it's like, you help me, I turn around to help somebody else, and, like, this is just kinda person I am.
I don't think, and I don't know if I've always been this way, or maybe it was like once I realized like the power in sharing your story and how it can help other people. So then
Yeah,
you, which also in turn makes you feel less alone, right? Like,
absolutely.
so I don't know if I've always been this way, but like I physically don't think I can gatekeep a damn thing.
No,
Like
literally. You're one of those that like someone's like, I like your top, and you're like, oh, $3. I like, but for
Yeah,
this
make
closet,
sure.
like,
There was this reel I saw the other day, and it was this girl, and I feel bad I can't like give credit to her, but it was like, oh, but like I sized down because the review said you had to size down. Like I need you to know everything.
be
Okay.
specific, because
Yeah.
if you go there and then like you try them on and you're like, oh, this don't fit, and like you feel
Then
bad
it's
about
my fault.
yourself, I'm going to hell. So like, what do you
I
mean?
then I'm a liar.
I'm literally a liar and I need to go to therapy again.
Then I
So
cheated you.
no,
Okay. And
literally, I'm a bad
I could
person.
never. I could never.
Oh
Like
my God.
we want to be, you know who we want to be? We want to be the drunk girl you meet in the bathroom
that's
at a bar,
that's exactly what I want. And like
but
I've only
sober
no
ish.
sober.
Ish.
Yeah, sober. Alive and well ish. Sober ish. Like that's exactly, I really like that. Like there's no more supportive place than like the, the girls' bathroom at like a bar or like a club or whatever it is. It's been
Yeah.
50 years since I've been to a club, but like it's just like it's what I want. Like I'm a girl's girl. I'm, a guy's girl kind of sometimes. I don't know.
I'm a
Uh
humans girl.
I'm a humans girl, like I am a
We're
people
soul
person.
girls. We're
Right.
soul
That's what it is,
girls.
because I am a people person. But if you see me in public, chances are I'm not saying hi, like
Okay.
unless you say hi first. And like even then I'm
Another,
gonna be like like
she says with her introvert shirt
no,
literally on.
literally that Larissa
If
made for me. So it's fine. It's fine.
takes one to know one.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but another Brene Brown little quotey quote here, and I want to say this is from Call to Courage on Netflix. Is she talks about how she's someone who like so funny, who loves humanity, but is kind of like so on people. And I was
That's
like, okay, there it is.
I can get behind that sentiment. Like
Yeah.
I literally, maybe I should build a shrine of Brene Brown right here in the corner, because like I swear to God, it's just everything she says, but like it just resonates so deeply because
Yeah.
I am like that. Like, and my like the job I work part-time as a server in a steakhouse, like a restaurant, and I just meet so many people all the time. And I feel like we've talked about this before, but it's like I'm really so good at that job. I think it's the ADHD. I don't know. I love it. I know you were a server,
I
bartender.
was a server and a bartender. Yeah.
I'm gonna toot my own horn. Like I'm amazing. And it sounds so silly as a 30-year-old woman to be like, I'm so good at this, but like I'm not gonna discredit
Own
anything that I'm
it.
good
I'm
at.
sorry.
My
Mm-mm.
best friend and I talk
You're
about this
owning
all the
it.
time because she has also done the same thing and very good. Like I get so many compliments every single time I work. Like you're the best server we've ever had, or like we're locals, we whatever. And
Yeah.
I take pride in that, like because like I appreciate it. Like it's encouraging or whatever. But I don't actually know where I was. Oh yeah, so a lot of like surface level conversations. Like
There was
we'll
the ADHD.
bring it back, bring it back. We'll get back there eventually. So like I meet a lot of like surface level people, and and we've talked about that with you as well in your experience in like the industry, where it's like people are so, a lot of times the easiest thing, like the lowest hanging fruit, is like that negativity, and so like that's
Yeah.
what
Oh
most
my
people
God.
kind of go
Yeah.
around with. So I am happy to say that like at this stage in my life as a 30-year-old woman, I don't like fall into it. It can kind of feel kind of lonely because I'm not in the little groups and the cliques, at work, who like talk about things. I don't know whose partner is cheating on them, and like I don't know who's in, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
like it is that type of industry, and it's just I
It is.
it's very, I go there, I make my money, I get out, and I love it. I have a couple girls who I talk to who I really love as people, as people in the real world. Um, but I just can't connect with, I just need to be so open and honest about everything,
Yeah.
all the time. So if anyone ever looks at me and they're like, if they ever think like, oh, you're so strong, I'm like, yeah, because I've fucked up a lot and I made a lot of mistakes and I had to go through this, and I'm not always also strong. And sometimes I'm strong and I'm also sobbing at the same
Yeah.
time. But like,
It's
I
the
just,
trauma.
it's the, is it the trauma? I just, yeah. So like, that's my thing, is like, I know that I, as a girl growing up, in the 90s, it's like, I looked at, pictures of magazines, and like, I just thought these
Hmm.
girls were amazing and everything was perfectly curated, but like my brain didn't understand that. And so for me, I think it's like, I'm such a truth seeker, and like,
Sorry.
also,
I'm so sorry.
no,
Continue.
you're fine. It's part of my ADHD, and this, my 9-year-old and I both butt heads so much because we were both the same way. But I'm just like almost like this social justice warrior, where I just like don't want other women to feel less than or like different than or whatever, because it's
Yes.
like we're different, but like we're the same. Like we're the same.
Yeah.
Like we've been through similar things and we've felt similar things, and like that's my shtick, is I just like want people to just realize that it's so. My therapist says something that like helps me a lot when I'll be talking about something. She's like, so you're just having a hard time being a human. And I'm just like, Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. Like, we actually all go through this literally just means you're human, as cliche as that is, it's so true. It's like,
Yeah.
chances are this is just a byproduct of being a human.
I've heard that quote, which I love because it's my favorite thing to joke about of like parenting's only hard if you're a good parent. And I'm like, well, I mean, must be a really fucking
I'm
good parent.
actually the best. Number 1
I'm
parent,
sorry.
give me a mug because,
And so
yeah.
maybe it's the same for humans of like, it's really only hard if you are growing. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
and
Like if
because
you
you
are
and
doing
if
your
you care,
best.
like, if you
Yeah.
care, and if you wanna be better, and if you wanna do better, and if you wanna make an impact, and it's
If you're
something
making
like
the most of it, honestly.
exactly, you're
Yeah.
feeling all of it, and, like, that's the thing for me, like, I recently we talk about ADHD. I was recently diagnosed, like, right after I turned 30. I started on medication for it, and like, loved it for the first, like, month, maybe 6 weeks or so. I don't know. I
Yeah. I remember seeing you share it. You were like, is this what people's brains feel like?
No, I literally was like, "This is crazy," you know? And then I went off of for about a week. I, like, lost my meds and I couldn't get, refilled till, like, the next week or something like that, and so it was, like, 7 or 8 days without it, and I was like, "Oh, I've actually been really, like, missing this, like, this part
Mm,
of me," because, like, it just leveled me out, which was amazing. Like, I can't it's like one of those things that, like, it leveled me out, but then to be leveled means that you don't go here or here,
right.
and the reason I even sought, like, the diagnosis or the medication or whatever it was because, like, I was struggling so bad with, like, getting to here, like, getting to, like, a 10 with my kids, or
Like you were
getting
doing that too much? Like you were getting to a
Yes.
10. Okay.
Yes, getting to a 10. Like, I still get it, like, to a 10 or whatever every now and then, but it was just, like it was every day constantly, and, like, for those that don't know, like, I was a surrogate recently. I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, like, 9 months ago or so now, 9 or almost 10, and so that process was amazing. That was amazing. I have no bad feelings, no anything towards it, but obviously, like, I'm 9 months postpartum, and so, like,
Right.
so many hormones on top of having my own 5 kids, homeschooling, sports, whatever it is, and so it just got to be too much, so much that, like, no amount of, like, talk therapy was helping, and I also, like, was, working out consistently 5, 6 days a week, and my therapist, she actually specializes in, helping adults with ADHD, and I didn't know that about her when we first, like, connected 6 or 7 years ago, but I talk to her about it all the time, and she's like, "How do you feel about, a diagnosis? How do you feel about" whatever. It just kind of ended up being like, I'm doing the top 2 things that doctors or whatever, studies, like, recommend or suggest for treatment for
Like
ADHD,
lifestyle wise.
which
Yeah.
is yeah, so it's like it's working out and talk therapy or working out and going to a therapist. Those are the top 2 things to help treat ADHD. Obviously, it's not something you can cure. So, it kind of just got to the point where I was like, "I need to try this," I need to do it,
Mhm.
and I did love it until I got back off of it, and then I was like, "I actually kind of like my brain when it's
Oh my
naturally
God. I
on
could talk
crack."
about that for days.
It's like it's one of those things where, like, I am the person who the people have just told me to my face that I'm outwardly annoying. Like, I talk fast. I've had so many people growing up that are like, "Are you on crack?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just, like, excited about
It's
life."
just me.
This is
Yeah.
just literally me. Like, I'm gonna make a little jokey joke. I'm gonna laugh and giggle and, like, have a good time if I can, but I'm also gonna be so real, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be within a span of, like, 2 minutes. So
Yeah. I had like a full on identity crisis when I realized I had ADHD. Like
oh,
literally because
it
it
happens.
it made me realize that I always just thought I was a freaking badass. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could go and get so much done in such a short amount of time. Like I can make anything work. I take leaps. I go after things. I have all this ambition. Like I get super creative and hyper focused and like all these great things, right? That like I just
Mhm.
honestly considered like a really strong work ethic and
Yeah.
everything, right?
Same.
And all these things I, like, loved about myself that honestly, I also thought everyone else was like that, so I was like, "What's wrong with
Same.
y'all if you're not like this?"
Same.
But
This is
then when I
normal.
realized, I was like, "Oh, this is, like, my neurodivergency," I had, like, this identity crisis,
Yeah.
for, like, a year of, like, "Is this does that mean it's a problem? Because this is actually, like, what I re" and then I kind of no medication, no nothing, kind of sizzled myself out to this, like, I don't even like, almost like shell of myself because I was so afraid to almost, like, lean into it and
You
use
kept
those
noticing it and
gifts.
then, like, pulling it back, and, like,
Yeah, and
noticing it and, like
yeah, kinda, and so and I go through spurts too, where I,
right.
like, lean into it, but just overall, it just really gave me this identity crisis because I felt like I had finally understood myself,
Yeah.
and really gotten to know myself and, like, my gifts and everything, and then once there was, like, this, like, quote, unquote, "label" on it, which I'm not, like, a label fan in general,
Yeah.
um, it just, like it had me, like, do this, like, remembering my entire, like, life and childhood and all the things and growing up and,
I
the
think
fact that I
that's so common. Like that's how
Yeah,
it works.
I think so too. I've talked to so many
That's
people
the
about
process
it.
of it.
Yeah, and so now I finally, this past year have really grown into like Simon Sinek does such a good job of talking about this stuff about how like it's not a disorder and it's so many strengths, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like technically it's a disorder or whatever, but
Right.
like there's so many strengths in it and it's really just learning how your brain works and learning to work with it and not against it. And yeah, I'm
I'm sure
just
that's another reason why you are excited to homeschool, because that is one thing about my son.
yeah,
It's actually so hard to get him an ADHD diagnosis on paper, because he is homeschooled. And so he doesn't have these like multiple outside sources who get to see
right.
him. He does go to like an after school club sometimes, where he just gets to hang out with friends. That's just like literally they play sports, they do whatever. It's basically the social aspect of when people are like, how do your kids socialize? It's like, well, they do in real life. And then also they go to a club with kids their age, whatever. Um, but like he, I don't, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, with homeschooling, it's like talking to his psych about it, and she's just like, well, does it affect his schoolwork? And I'm like, my first response is, well, no. And then I'm like, well, that it doesn't, because
But if he was in school,
I give him all of these
yeah,
modifications, and he takes, every 15 minutes, if he's not done with the lesson or whatever it is, like he will
the
take a brain,
measuring stick is different.
exactly, a brain break. He will take a body break. And like,
Yeah.
so no, while you're asking me like why I'm, looking for this like evaluation or diagnosis or whatever it is, it's kind of just to understand him more. But I do know him and I do know that he has it. And um, it's just one of those things that like I have always done like the superpower thing too, but I don't know if it's the same for you or maybe different, because mine cycles through like I do have this like vicious cycle of like my ADHD, my anxiety ties back to my ADHD. And so I get into these spirals of like being super anxious about stuff. And then like when I kind of come down from that, I will cycle into like a depression. And I kind of at one point was worried about like bipolar or like the BPD, what borderline, that's what it's called. And
Mhm.
so my therapist kind of explained to me the way that it works, someone with ADHD, but it's very common to like get into these things of like, why can't I stay on task? Why can't I keep this routine? Why can't, that's something I struggled with forever. I want to be someone who wakes up and works out early in the morning. It literally does not. It doesn't work for me, and I do not enjoy it. So, I have just had to come to terms with so many things. Once I got my actual like official diagnosis for myself, it was like, this is this is how my brain works, and I need to work with it and not against it.
Yeah.
It's kinda crazy. It was really comforting when I got my diagnosis, because it's like, I've been doing this for my son since he was born. Like, since he was born, I've known, I've seen, again, I have 4 other kids to compare his actions to, now that I have a 3-year-old as well. So it's like, he's my only one that is this far, like, excited about it, passionate about this stuff, creative this way, like, a go-getter. Like, this
And
kid
it's the
is
best.
this it's
He's
the
awesome.
best.
I
It's the
love
best. He's amazing, but, like, I also just have to, like, for anybody out there that can maybe relate, like I said, like, mine cycles through, and I can see it in my son the same way, like, into
him.
almost like a depression, because I do get down on myself, and I do have like, I have so many
The highs are
struggles.
high and the
The
then the lows
lows
are
are
low.
so low, like,
Yeah.
you can get into this cycle of almost, like, hating yourself or, like, shitting on yourself, and my son is like that, and so, like, I see that a lot. And so, it's like, these are all superpowers, but I have to be so honest, there are a lot of things that are not superpowers.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that are just, I say challenges, or I say struggles, whatever, I just, so that I can kind of, um, l let my son know that it's okay to feel like it's a struggle or like it's a challenge sometimes. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I never wanna put into his head, like, it's a superpower, it's
Oh,
amazing
yeah,
that
we
you
don't
can
wanna
do
put
this.
lipstick on a pig and,
Exactly,
like, we
because
don't
it's
wanna
like,
downgrade it.
he's like, "If I'm so amazing and my brain is so awesome, why do I feel like crying
Why
right
is this
now?
hard? Yeah,
Why
no,
is
for
everything so hard?"
sure.
And so, like, that's, yeah, we're very open and honest about that, right? That's another thing, raising one kid with ADHD and the rest do not. They all have their differences, obviously, but, like, like, he can't have the same amount of, like, sugar and things like that as the other kids. Like,
Yeah.
yesterday was World War III breakdown meltdown after all the
Easter.
Easter, and,
Yeah.
which is probably very common for so many kids, but, like, again, all 4 of my other kids, or actually one of them is sick, he's at his mom's, but, the other 3, they all had the same amount of candy, and they all went to bed just fine, and they all, you know what I mean? Like, they all,
What is
it's
that like? Oh my god, mine it's a shit show.
yeah, I mean, like,
Anytime.
I will say, like, my 8-year-old girl, like, she will have her, we know, like, sugar in excess is just not, it's just not great for anyone, but, like, so she will have her, like, weepy moments or, like, her more, like, attitude, but Malachi's is just, like, it's hard, everything is hard and it's just like
Like
rage.
heavy. It's like
It's just
heavy.
everything.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, but why? And he'll get to the point of like, and I'm like, it's okay. It's
Well,
okay.
yeah, and it's like they're not even in that moment.
No,
That's how my kids are too, where it's just like it's overstimulation to the max, but not even just from like outside sources. It's like what's happening on the inside is
no,
like,
so hard and so much. Also,
yeah,
I really wanted to go back through this because I forgot. So we talked about the extracurriculars in the kids' sports.
yeah.
My brain is just like going back to this. Another thing I had, because we talked about like, do you limit like the number of activities or whatever it is, but I'm interested to know your opinion. Like, do you let your kids quit anything like mid-season? Like, would you let your kids
Mm,
quit? And I don't know if my opinion's gonna be different than yours. I like doesn't
that's
matter,
a good,
obviously.
no, I like this topic a lot. So we've talked about this. Jason and I have talked about this. And Jason, my husband, he played sports all through, which
Same.
our situation is very similar to what you said about you and Sean of like very different experiences
Yeah.
growing up,
So
right?
is
Which is
Jason more like
so,
me?
yes.
Okay, because I played every sport all the time, all
Yes,
throughout school.
he played every sport. Like he was on the golf team. He played in high school. He played baseball, like all growing up, like all the little league things, travel
Yeah,
ball, all the things. I dabbled, but I moved around a lot when I was a kid. And so like I really didn't do any sports past like
right.
age 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And it was never anything very, very consistent. And so we've had this conversation a lot because also I truly do think though, like, and this can be a topic for another time or this right here, but I really think that being involved in the sports and things is a direct correlation of the experience you had in high school of, not drinking and all the things. Like you just have so much going
I
on.
was
Like,
too busy. Like,
yeah,
I
when
was
you're
too
not
tired.
involved in all of these things, like you have time to like fuck
I
around
was too
and
tired to shower getting home from games
go
sometimes,
go
Like, just
drink in deserts and things like
I
that.
was
Like
passing out on my
that's
bed from playing, like, like a double header. I was not,
no.
like,
I
drinking.
was doing very dangerous things.
Heard.
Um, yeah.
Heard that.
So anyway, so with that being said, like we've had this conversation, him and I, like about that stuff and doing sports and stuff like that. So in terms of quitting, our whole thing, and we've talked to the kids about this, like we're really big on communication. And I will say, like, this is something we've learned through parenthood, right? Like we did not
Right.
have children and
You
immediately
weren't
like
just
we're
already
gonna
great
be
at
the
this.
yeah, we're gonna be the best communicators.
This
No,
is
no,
all
no.
learned experience.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, we're never like, you're not quitting. Like you can't quit. Like if you sign up for something, it's your
Right.
responsibility and that's it. Like, and that's like, we're not a very like, because I said so kind of thing,
Right.
because especially as the kids get older, they deserve to understand, right? Everything should be a conversation. So and we talk about this before we sign them up for something. And we've had instances where they will sign up for a sport or they will sign up
Mhm.
for a camp or theater or something like that and like absolutely freaking hate it in the
Yeah.
beginning, or like
Yep.
they'll have a social situation that makes them like not want to do it and
Uncomfortable,
everything like
right,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Lots of reasons. But our whole thing is if you sign up for it, you have to stick it out through the season.
Boom.
And then if you never want to do it again, that's totally, totally fine. But like, and again, there's definitely circumstances, I'm sure, and especially as they get older, like if something becomes dangerous, if there is a social situation that is like becomes harmful to somebody, right? There are extenuating circumstances, but my kids are really young. That stuff's not happening right now.
This is
It's
also why
most
we mesh so well because, like, we had this exact same.
everything everything's a gray area.
No, there's just nothing is black and white, and so, like, I didn't
Yeah.
mean to cut you off, so if you have more,
No.
please continue,
No,
but,
but
like,
basically that's what it is at the stage that they're at, like the reason they want to stop is just because they're not enjoying it, or the reason they want to
or
stop
because 'cause they're
is
not amazing
because
at it right now. Like, they don't get on the field
exactly.
and instantly kick all the goals and, like,
Exactly, exactly. And I'm like, so you have a commitment to the team and things like that. And again, everything's a gray area. Like if something becomes like detrimental to their mental health, that's a different conversation. Um, but
I
like
like
we
that.
haven't had that situation happen,
Yeah.
and I've heard stories of that with kids with like teenagers on baseball teams and stuff like that. And they just really want to quit because they're having issues with teammates and it's very sad and heartbreaking things have
Right.
happened, So
Yeah.
everything's a gray area. But for
Listen,
my
I'm
kids
just
who are in like
my kids
little
are
league right
quitting.
now.
Yeah, no, my kids are quitting, and I'm going to punch some kids. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I'll show up.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, I agree. Like literally every single bit of that, and I asked that because my two biological kids who are in soccer, which I like. I even need to just say this because like when my husband and I got together. A lot of times people, especially if you've never been in a blended family, I'd never been a step parent before. So many people I see are like, well, there's no step. And like, we're just, we're one big family. And like, that to me works great for some people who it works for. But like, for me, it feels silly trying to act like these are not my kids versus your kids, but you know what I mean? Not in like a
Mhm.
like going to war type of way, but like it is very much like I have way more control and say in my kids, my biological kids. So
Yeah.
we biological kids, step kids, not as much in front of them. You know what I'm saying? But just when
You
he and
can't
I
you
talk about
you
things,
still can't parent your step
step boys,
kids.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what word to use, but I guess we're just gonna say
step
that.
boys,
Your
they are.
bonus children. Your bonus children.
Like people say that, I just don't go with it because it just feels like
They're
so
my
try
step
hard. Like they're literally my step boys, and I'm their stepmom. Like that's how
Yeah.
they introduce me, and like it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt my feelings. Like
But the truth is you can't parent them in the same way
I can't the
because
same
there's a lot of
capacity.
different
Now
dynamics.
that doesn't mean that I don't care about them the same because
Yeah,
I will go
definitely.
to war. I
Yeah.
will go to war with my husband, with their mom, with anyone over
Yeah.
these kids. Like it's just
Yeah.
it again, social justice warrior. But anyway, so I needed to get that out of the way because I know sometimes people hear me say like my kids, his kids, step kids, but whatever biological kids. And like that's just how we speak because I'm a very literal person in some ways. So
Yeah.
anyway, I my two who are in soccer right now, like this is their first time. They did gymnastics for a little bit, but then we ended up moving up to Michigan for the surrogacy. And so we whatever, they were done with that. So soccer happened and my son, my 9-year-old was the only one who wanted to play and so we were at Walmart, we're getting his whatever things that he needs for soccer and
Which, by the
he
way, Walmart is the place to freaking go for sports equipment, y'all. If
I
you
never
don't
even
know,
thought of anywhere else, but also I'm in like a very podunk little area. So
I will tell you, like
it's like
the
wait 3
softball
to 5
thing.
days for
Oh my
Amazon
God.
delivery or like, you know what I mean?
Just
Go
go
to
to
Walmart.
Walmart.
So we went to
Just go to
Walmart.
Walmart.
They literally like a $5 soccer ball, like my kids play with all the time now. Like there's such good prices. Anyway, so
This is not sponsored by Walmart, but
should be. Anyway, so like we're there getting the stuff. I got him a little water bottle and his shin guards and socks. And
yep.
I had, was gonna order his cleats or whatever. And so, my daughter, she's 8. We're like walking out of the aisle and she's like, I want to play too. And I was like, oh, okay. And I like she picked out her stuff and I was like, do you want to play or do you really like these really cool, cute,
Do you
hot
want to dress
pants?
up?
Because that's also fine. You have your
Yeah.
allowance. That's also fine. Um, but we talked about this and we talked about the cost of signing both of them up. You know what I'm saying? So she's yes, I want to play. Yes, I want to play. I was like, amazing. First day comes for practice and she no longer really wants to play. And so I'm just like,
First day.
she doesn't, yeah, no, like before even. And so I knew that it was nothing that had happened at soccer. So like my question with her was like, why, like, why do you think you feel that way? Or like what? And she's like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just scared. I'm just nervous. And like, that was a great
Oh,
opportunity to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like every other kid out there on that field is going to be your age. Like, do you think they're
yeah.
going to like, there's not going to be any David Beckhams out there, like where it's going to be okay. And if there is, that's also okay. We're going to support them and cheer for them. But like,
Yeah.
chances are most likely your age group, these kids are not going to be phenomenal soccer stars. And this is like a small little town, you know, uh, not even related to the school. So like, so she's like, okay, I'll try it. And she did it and she was okay with it. Afterwards she had fun. Next time practice came around, she didn't want to do it. And I'm just like, why? And she's like, I don't understand like the positions. And I'm like, well, yeah, you just started. Like, and so my
Yeah.
thing, and I'm very like playful in my words sometimes to my kids. I don't realize that maybe other parents aren't until I hear other parents talking to their kids. And I'm like, oh God, I cuss too much around my kids. But anyway, like like I just told her, like, it's like, you feel like you suck right now? That's okay. It's okay if you suck. Like, you might suck for the next practice and the next practice, and it's not gonna be some magical moment where you don't suck anymore. But it's gonna be, a slow, gradual, less sucky.
Progression.
Yeah, exactly, like
Yeah.
progression, but you're gonna suck less and less every time, and, like, that's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay, and this is, like, unless you wanna go into, like, professional soccer, whatever, like, a professional soccer league, like, it's okay to just, like, play this and to just try to have fun, like, or it's also okay to take it more seriously and practice, in between
And how
practices
old
or
is she?
whatever.
8?
She's
She's 8?
8. This is her
Yeah.
first, like, I wanna say, like, aggressive sport or, like, high intensity sport, and
Yeah.
so, she
Organized sport.
organized sport, and she
Yeah.
loves it now, like, she had her first game last
Yay!
Saturday, she was goalie for part of the
That's
game.
awesome.
They elected her as, like, team captain, so she's, like, feeling herself and, like, we had to order goalie gloves because that's what she wants to do now, and so I'm like, I'm so glad, but, like, you would not have gotten to this if you didn't stick out the suck, you
Well,
know?
that's the thing. Anything in life, and I think that's something that's so powerful about sports is there's so many situations exactly like that. You know what I mean? And I think any situation in any of our lives, we don't get to that like great place or that place of success
Mhm.
without going through the messy middle. You know what I mean? And like
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
So
had to talk to her about that because she's like, "Well, are you only doing this because your mom made you play basketball?" When, I was like, because they knew like that I sucked at basketball to begin with.
wait, did you ever want to quit and then like your mom
Oh
wouldn't
no,
let you?
I started playing in 7th grade. I was like, I'm gonna play because like I transferred from a huge school in Texas where like I played volleyball, like all these other sports, but I never played basketball. Or I
Okay.
think I had maybe tried and then we moved middle of the year anyway. So I signed up for it because that's the school that I transferred to in Arkansas. Was they had basketball and softball, and like it was just those two alternating seasons. That's it. The school was so small.
Hmm.
Like 200 people the whole K through 12.
Oh
So
wow.
it was one building.
Wow. That's
One building, including the
crazy.
gym and the cafeteria. Tiny. I graduated with 11 other people.
It's called a
So
multi-purpose room. Okay.
exactly. Exactly. So, like, literally graduated with 11 other people, and it was tiny. But, like, I was like, "I'm gonna do basketball." It's what everyone does. There's
Yeah.
6 kids in my class. Whatever. I don't care. We'll play basketball together. And
I'm
I started
Sporty
it.
Spice.
I actually did wanna be Sporty Spice. I'm not kidding. I sucked so bad. Like, I sucked so bad, I would just cry. I'm not even just saying that as, like, "Woe is me." I was really fucking bad. So
Basketball's hard. I tried out one time, and the second I realized you had to run to the other side of the court and back, I was
you're like,
done.
"What do you mean I can't just stay right here?"
And I'm like,
I think I'm just gonna stay right here. The coach is screaming at
this
you.
is my position.
No, and then, like, yeah, and so I wanted to quit. My mom's like, "You're not quitting. Like, you're not quitting." And I don't even know if she had a reason. I don't know if she paid for, like, my basketball shoes already for the year or whatever it was. She was just
Yeah.
like, "You're not." And I remember being like, "Oh." One of those times, like, I don't know, like, I'm not gonna do it on camera, but, like, one of those times where I probably walked into my room and I was, like, flipping my mom off behind the door, and I'm like, I'm, like, cussing as, like, quietly as I could, and I'm like so I swear to God, that was probably a time like that. But I ended up staying in it, and like basketball became like literally my life. Like
Yeah.
I loved it so much. It was so good for me. There was nothing else to do in a tiny town like that, so it was like that was it. And I just told, my both kids, because at one point I think my son wanted to quit soccer too, but it was just like I'm not like good enough, or I'm not that good yet or something like that. And I was just like,
This is
and
where, like, mental, like, mindset and, like, I hate to say, like, mental toughness because that sounds like we're, like, not
no.
talking about emotions,
Right. But
you
it
know?
also you do have to be like, I oscillate between, like, I want my kids to have as gentle of a life. I don't want them to go through so much trauma, but, like, adversity is good.
Yeah,
How do
like,
you
you
learn to
have to be
overcome shit
challenged.
if you're not challenged
Yeah,
with something, how do you learn how to get over that? So, like, I
yeah.
as a parent, I want that. Like, I was telling my friend that the other day, like, their soccer coach is hard on them, which they're on different teams, fields side by side, but, like, he will be yelling at them. He's like, "What are you doing? Run laps." And I'm like, "I go coach." I love it. As long as you're not cussing at my kid or like in their face, although I've had coaches in my face screaming whatever,
Yeah.
crazy, and like that shit pushed me. And so like I don't think there's anything wrong with someone being hard on your kids. And if it's not me, like if it's another adult that they trust and that I trust and that I'm good with,
Oh,
then
see, I'm a
like,
baby.
oh no, not no, I mean
But, like
I'd be
no, but, like
shaking,
no, no,
crying.
no, but I even mean, like, as a parent, like,
Oh
I
no.
have a very strong boundary on, like, what I feel like would be okay, and again, when I'm saying this, I'm not
Mhm.
judging people who feel
Right.
differently.
This is what I
You know
meant though
what I
when I
mean?
said I feel like we are different people, because like
Yeah,
I'm not even kidding. My kids will do something, I'll be like,
but
"What the
yeah,
fuck?" Like I will
but,
literally just
like
to my kids, "What the fuck, my kids?" And they're like,
and again, unless it was something that was, like, really, really bad, like, I don't think that I would, like, talk, like, to the coach or anything, but it would bring up a conversation with us
with
at
you and your
home.
kids maybe where you're like,
Yes.
"Yeah, I don't feel like that was appropriate," or "I don't like, how did you feel about that?" I try
Yeah,
to get my kids' feelings on it, and my kids, because if they would have come to me and been like, "That scared me." Because
yeah,
my son does have, I'm not gonna put all his information out there, but like he does have his stuff that he has to go through with his therapist, from things he's been through as a little kid. And so he
mhm,
does get triggered by certain things, and people being in
right,
his face is one of them. So like if the
yep,
coach were to ever get in his face, I would have to let him know kindly. And like
right,
that's one thing about me is like I will absolutely go to war for any of my kids. I'm not afraid of confrontation. And
yeah.
so I would absolutely let the coach know, like, just back it up, scream at him from afar, because
See,
like,
and this is exactly why everything is a gray area because just a few minutes ago you were like, "I loved when they would get up in my face," and you're like, "I don't
me,
care if they do that to me." I know, but that's
but
what
my
I mean. So
son,
that's why everything's a
exactly.
gray area,
And
and
that's
it's like
That's what
yeah,
I meant when I said, like, I try to wait till I see my kid's reaction before I react,
right,
because I can
right,
convince my kid that something was awful, terrible, the worst thing ever if I react that way. And so
yeah,
there's so many times where I'm like, they're their own people. And
yeah.
so actually my
That's
son and
true,
I,
yeah,
when I say got into it, like we just got into it recently about, he was getting in trouble about something. And my husband, his stepdad, was like in his face talking to him about it in like stern voice. And it doesn't matter. Me and my trauma response, if I hear a man get like a deep voice, like loud,
Mm,
I'm scared. I'm triggered, whatever. Like,
yeah,
I
I
mean,
feel
like in
that.
relationship, or in the household or whatever.
Instant tears.
I'm like, or like fight, flight, or freeze. I might punch you in the eye. I might run away. I don't know. So like
I might throw up. It's fine.
at the same time and fall in it. But anyway, so like Malachi, he let me know, and I'm glad he felt comfortable enough with it. But like afterwards, he just told me he was like crying, and he's like, I want to take like a shower to like cool off. And I'm like, awesome. So afterwards, he's like, I don't like it, when people get in my face like that because it makes me feel like whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Thanks for letting me know. I didn't see the issue because like it's a disciplinary action. Like did this, so this is why you were talked to in this way. And so, but also I understand you're still going to get in trouble for the same thing. You're still going to be disciplined, but like I'll just make sure that there's space, so that you're not. And that's
Yes,
exactly how I
boundaries.
would be in sports. For me myself, I didn't mind. Like you scream at me, I'm going to dunk on the I'm going to go dunk on these hoes, okay? I'm going to go score 35 points. But like my kid isn't like that. And Bellamy is my daughter, she's not like that either. She would absolutely sob, all
Yeah.
over the field. So
Yeah, no, my
anyway,
kids would not do well. Okay, and now for the end of, I don't know. This is the
listen,
thing about
I'm
awkward
not
introverts.
gonna. So I don't know. I just say we in this awkwardly and say, okay, love you, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love you. I
I
love
do love
you,
you
and
too.
I love you, the listener, whoever you may be.
Okay, sounds good. Am I gonna stop recording?
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Okay,
Love you,
thanks for
bye.
listening. Love you, bye.